Hey everyone, so first you're gonna need an embroidery hoop, some fabric, some embroidery thread. We're gonna use 4 different shades of pink for Kirby's body and blue and black for his eyes. We'll also need white and gray. I'm just using regular sewing thread because I don't have those colors. We're gonna need needles and scissors. So first we're going to unscrew the embroidery hoop and put the fabric in between it. And now we're going to pull the fabric as tight as we can so that it's easier to draw on the fabric and to embroider on it. And then we're going to take our scissors and cut some of the excess fabric off. And we're going to leave some of it there so that we can pull on it if it gets loose while we're embroidering. And then we're going to start drawing the design onto the fabric. I did this part freehand, but you could always trace onto it. I also drew some lines for any shadows or highlights that I wanted to add, so that I knew where to change the color. So to start embroidering, we're going to take some black thread and thread it through the needle, and then we're going to tie a knot on both ends of the thread. And then we're going to start with a back stitch. If you don't know how to do it, this is how you get it started. And then we're just going to continue for the whole outline of Kirby's body. So while you're embroidering, there are going to be times when you need to tie a knot in the back in case you want to replace your thread or something. So I thought I'd just show you guys how I do that. And now I'm just going to continue outlining Kirby. Also, you'll notice that I don't outline Kirby's face yet, and that's just because I'm going to wait to color it in, and then I'm going to outline it on top so that it's easier to see his face and it just looks a lot cleaner. Now we're going to take the pink thread that we're using for Kirby's body, and to color it in, I'm going to use something similar to the satin stitch. So I'm pretty much just going back and forth, but instead of the satin stitch, I'm just going to kind of start right next to the thread that I just pulled. I don't know how to explain it really, but I find that this way of doing it really saves a lot of thread. As you can see, I'm going around the lines that I put for the shadows, and that's just so that I can fill it in later. I'm also going around the facial features instead of just going over it. That way I know where they're supposed to go, and it's gonna make it look a lot cleaner. Also, I totally could have just filled in the area above the facial features at the same time. I don't know why I didn't. I had a smooth brain moment, but you know, whatever. So now I'm using a slightly darker shade of pink for the shadow. Also here, I'm not worrying too much about leaving gaps in between, and that's just because I'm gonna go in later to blend and fill it in and all that. And now I'm using the same shade of pink for Kirby's feet, his little tootsies. And I'm gonna save some room for the shadows. And now I'm doing the cheeks. And to get the color on top of, the thread that's already there, I'm kind of splitting in between the threads. Here's a close-up, so it's kind of easier to see what I'm talking about. And I'm splitting between the threads so that the thread goes on top of what's already there. Because if you didn't do it that way, the lighter pink would just cover the darker pink. And now I'm just using a darker shade of pink for the shadows on Kirby's feet. Now I'm using a lighter shade of pink for the highlight on Kirby's head. Now we're gonna start Kirby's eyes, and to do that I'm just outlining it and then filling in the part that's gonna be black. And we're just gonna continue with the eyes until you get this boy. And now we're gonna outline the mouth. Then we're gonna fill in the handle of the knife with black thread. Now we're gonna fill the bottom part of the eyes with blue. And now I'm filling in the blade of the knife with my regular sewing thread. As you can see, the sewing thread is thinner than the embroidery thread, so it's gonna take a little bit more work to fill it in as much as the embroidery thread. And now I'm using the white sewing thread to fill in the light in Kirby's eyes. And then I'm using the same thread for the highlight of the knife. Okay, so now we're gonna start with the blending and filling in. So I'm gonna split my thread. I'm just using 3 strands for this, which is half as much as I was using before. And I'm just filling in any gaps that I see and blending the line between the shadow and the rest of the foot. And now I'm just gonna do what I did on this foot, on the other foot, and here, and also here. So this is how it looks before the blending and filling in all the gaps, and this is how it looks after. It looks a little weird, but it took me forever. So if you want to make it look even better, you can tuck the excess fabric behind and glue it or something. But yeah.